Whether it's an adjustment, it's body work, it's acupuncture, all of those things improve the signals up to the sensory part of the brain. And then the brain has a choice. It looks at that information and decides, is that the reality I want for this body? And if not, then it causes a reaction into another area of the brain that has more of a motor or an effect on our body. So an adjustment can help relax muscle tension throughout the body. It can help get you out of this sympathetic dominance, this fight or flight response, and more into a healing type of parasympathetic tones.
Hello and welcome to the Wellness Trinity podcast, where we interview top holistic experts and bring you natural solutions for modern day wellness. Let's get started with your host, Dr. Jacqueline.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining the Wellness Trinity podcast. I'm Dr. Jacqueline from thewellnesstrinity.com, where we provide natural solutions for modern day wellness. Today, we're going to discuss, and we're going to continue actually, our mental wellness series with Dr. Debbie Denno, talking about the impact of chiropractic and essential oils on the nervous system and emotions. Just a little disclaimer before we get started. What we discuss in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. What you do with the information is to be used at your discretion, as the recommendations are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. This episode was brought to you by CellCore Biosciences. Creating supplements that work is what they do, and restoring hope and health is who they are. This protocol was an absolute game changer for myself and my clients too. And now I get to train practitioners to use it in their practice and ebb and flow with it accordingly. So if you want to learn more about the protocol, please visit cellcorebiosciences.com. If you are a practitioner, you can sign up for a wholesale account. And the general public, please visit thewellnesstrinity.com/CellCore Detox, and I can show you the ropes of how we can ebb and flow with this for yourself and your family. I met Dr. Debbie Denno at the Eco Workshop a few months ago for CellCore, and she was actually my roommate. And that was the first time I got to meet her, and was so blessed because she is the doctor's professor. So she's the one that taught Dr. Todd Watts and Dr. Vaughn Watts and Dr. Javen Moore and many more chiropractors and functional medicine doctors out there. And so it's just incredible honor to know Dr. Debbie Denno. Dr. Debbie Denno is a 1989 graduate at Logan University's Doctor of Chiropractic program. In her 30-year career, she served as a chiropractor and functional medicine practitioner, as well as an educator training future doctors of chiropractic. After attending CellCore's Eco Conference in Orlando in February 2020, she came out of retirement to partner with CellCore Biosciences due to their revolutionary products and protocols. Now she works as their educational liaison to equip students and practitioners with cutting-edge products and training. Dr. Debbie Denno, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline. It's great to be here with you.
So, like I said, I'm so excited that you're on here. And when teachers teach and professors teach, I'm sure sometimes they have no idea what they're going to give birth to. And it was so funny when I met you, how you had no idea what Dr. Todd Watts and his whole team of people, and even some of the other people that you've taught, are just like what they're doing for society and how they're helping people in the company that they created. I mean, CellCore is a result. I mean, Dr. Todd Watts started it, and you were his professor. So
yes,
I know they highly look up to you. And so again, it's just a huge honor to have you here. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So do you want to expand a little bit on your career and how did you become the educational liaison of CellCore Biosciences? Where did this all start?
Thank you. And I love this story. I don't know if it was you, Dr. Jacqueline, or one of our other CellCore friends have talked about everybody's got a story and everybody's got a journey. Well, mine started actually originally when I was about 12 years old. I found myself going to a chiropractor, and it happened because several months before then, when I was actually 11, I had an injury to my back and had some other hormonal dysfunction and things like that. And I was a few weeks away from going to have back surgery at 12 years of age for a herniated disc in my low back, that my mom started going to see a chiropractor. And she wanted to start first to make sure that, you know, her babies were safe. And she took me to this chiropractor, and long story short, I didn't have back surgery. And at the time, not only did I have pain, but I also couldn't walk because I had numbness in one of my legs. And then some of my pelvic organs were dysfunctioning, some of my female hormone organs. So I was kind of a hot little mess, and you're not supposed to be that sick at 12. But we went to a chiropractor, and I just assumed growing up that everyone, when they were sick, they went to the doctor and they got supplements and they got adjusted, because that's what happened for me. So literally anytime we had anything, oh, you've got a cold, we need to go see the chiropractor, here, take these supplements. And over the course of my life, by that time, I already knew I wanted to be a doctor, but I thought I was going to be a surgeon. Well, you go through that kind of experience and you start to learn more about natural medicine. And so I ended up going to chiropractic school and graduated in 1989 from Logan University, which was at that time called Logan College of Chiropractic. So that's how I got started with chiropractic. I was in a private practice. The first couple of years I worked as an associate, and it was such a blessing because I worked in a functional medicine practice back before functional medicine was very popular. This office did a lot of nutrition and IV therapy and colonics and all kinds of things. And so that's kind of what I was raised up in. When I went out into private practice, I started from the very beginning using nutrition to help advance people's healing, in addition to a bunch of other techniques. Chiropractic. I also was a massage therapist, so I did massage therapy. I took some basic acupuncture in chiropractic school. So basically on a day-to-day basis, I would interview new patients and I would set up a program for them with chiropractic, exercise, nutrition, things like that. So I did that for a month short of 19 years before my husband moved us from South Central Missouri to Kansas City. And in Kansas City, I got the opportunity to work as a professor, like you mentioned, at Cleveland University, where Dr. Todd Watts went to chiropractic school. And yeah, I got to meet him there. And like you said, I knew he was going to help a lot of people. You meet folks when you get to train the next generations of doctors, you realize they are going to touch tens of thousands of people that you would never have the opportunity to help. So it's a great, great blessing. But like you said, sometimes they do things even more than what you can imagine. And I knew that Dr. Todd had been dealing with his own health issues and was on a path to help that. But yeah, there's no way I could have dreamed that he would develop CellCore and help so many thousands. We have thousands of practitioners, let alone all the thousands of people that they touch. So yeah, it's pretty exciting going to work each day. And I met you in February. By the end of that weekend, we both said, we've got to be involved with CellCore. And we pretty much begged them to, take us on as part of the company. And that's how I got started, just like you.
Yeah, that workshop, the eco workshop was, I mean, it was something else. I mean, you just felt, right? It felt magical being there. Like everyone was just on cloud nine. I mean, we all left and we're like, I can't wait for the next one.
Right. And I'm right there with you. COVID has to be loosening the boundaries so that we can all get together again in August, this time in Boise. I'm looking forward to it.
And the funny thing is the timing of the whole situation. Obviously nobody wants the situation going on right now. And I believe that God's going to have some great things coming out of this. So that's how I'm staying positive. But at the same time, it's not, I look around, I'm just like, can't wait till this is over. Let's learn our lessons and move on. Right.
Right.
So the eco workshop, we went there and we literally came back. We're all excited. We're going to help practitioners build their businesses with this. And then everything shuts down a week afterwards.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And we were all like scrambling around. Okay, how we're going to do this, what we're going to do. And I already knew this was going to happen because I just saw it. I saw it coming. And And so when we're talking about going to doctor's offices, in my mind, I already was thinking, this is not going to happen right now, at least. Let's figure out the internet world out. And then, you know, all this happens a couple months later. Here we are. And we're planning for this next eco conference. And I just think, wow, you know, I can't help but think by July, I think things are going to be, you know, people are going to be back up and, you know, things are going to be more open again. Now, obviously, we'll see day by day. I mean, this is crazy what's going on, but it's almost like it started right before, like we had the eco right before, and then kind of when it's dying down a little bit, we have eco again. And then who knows what's going to happen in the fall with the second wave that they say might come, you know? And so it's like just profound timing of when these eco workshops are happening, in my opinion.
I felt like it was a gift that we all got, that hundreds of us got that opportunity to be there. And just soak up all of that education. And then, like you said, there was an energy, a connection with all of us, and it was amazing. But you're right. We're planning as if it's going to happen, and making all those types of preparations. And since you and I met in February, I think, like you said, all of us with CellCore, our jobs have morphed and changed. Well, mine morphed and changed at the end of April. And because of my experience working with so many students and my love for that, I got the opportunity to switch. And instead, excuse me, instead of being a individual practitioner kind of sales support, now I'm the education liaison, and that's pretty exciting. We've got a big goal and a big plan for that. And it's not about selling more products. It's literally, we've got a great program and a great protocol that's unlike any others. And I'm sure you've talked about that with your other guests. But we get to share that and expand upon that, and really share that with the healthcare community, which is super exciting.
So what does it mean now that you're an educational liaison?
Right. So I have the benefit of being able to do a few things. One, I get to go back to my love of working with students, and I'll be develop student reps and working with their functional medicine clubs at naturopathic and chiropractic schools initially, and hopefully starting very soon and throughout the rest of the year. Most of them have gone back to their schooling already this month, but many of them are still, actually most of them are still online, probably until mid-June or something like that. But we're working with students because, wow, talk about being able to impact a generation. You work with student doctors and help them, you know, sometimes, well, we know this, it takes a while to figure it out, to take everything you've learned in school and now put that into a brand new business. And I get to help give them a head start. Also,
I love that.
I know.
I get
so
chills
cool.
when you say that, because I know how it feels to, you know, you go through this education, and fortunately the one that I got didn't really teach me like the business part of it, which is so important if you're going to go in this field. I mean, sometimes you can get hired, but a lot of times you're kind of left to just try to figure it out by yourself. And I don't have an entrepreneurial spirit anyway, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And so in that sense, but the other side of it is, I mean, I've spent so much time and effort trying to practice on myself and my husband. And he's like, I'm not your guinea pig. But I'm like, yes, you are.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. It's in the marriage contract.
Anyone that gets in this field, I mean, I deal with the practitioners, you know, firsthand, and everyone's like, I got to practice on myself first. So we usually become our own guinea pig. You know, I wish that I had this solution when I first started. I really feel like it would have sped up a few years of my trial and error on myself and my husband, and you know, a lot of my clients use a lot of the different things too. And don't get me wrong, I always had fabulous products. Always. I never cut that short. I always felt like I had the top of the line. If you're getting a probiotic, you're getting this one. If you're getting an enzyme, you're getting this one. And they're all good. But this protocol is really like a huge thing that separates CellCore from so many other things. And then obviously their products are top notch too. So even before I got hired, I kind of narrowed my stuff down to mostly CellCore, because I was like, they got it all figured out, and this is way easy to help, you know, for a practitioner, but also for the client to implement. So I know me and you can go on and on about
We
that, but let's
can,
dive
we can.
into.
You were actually one of my mentors when I got started about what was going to happen to me as I started with the protocols. So yeah,
Oh,
you're
I
one of my
love that.
go-tos. Jacqueline, is this normal?
Yeah, I remember when I was first there with you at
Mhm.
Eco, and you were like, you didn't know what you were stepping into. And
I
I
had
was
no
like,
idea. You were trying to
you,
prepare me.
yeah, I mean, I was like, Debbie, you have no idea what Dr. Todd Watts has done and
Yeah,
how incredible this is.
right.
And you were their teacher.
Hmm.
And now you get to experience it for yourself.
I
So
have, yes.
why don't you explain how has like the personal
Hmm.
protocol and how has this helped
Hmm.
you personally?
So I have been taking supplements again since I was 12 years of age, and I'm now 53. So I've been taking supplements. And like you said, when I got in practice, I tried to find the best that I could find. Um, so I wasn't expecting initially very much change to happen. I still had a lot of change. Um, so I've worked on drainage and detoxification many, many times. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've done a cleanse at least 2 times per year, all types of these things. And so I get into the protocol. And the first thing that I noticed is I started with that Mito ATP product while we were at the conference. And it so amazed me because one of the things that I had a challenge with and kind of a moral dilemma with in practice is you start patients on supplements, good supplements, and they start to feel better. But if they stop taking them, they go back, they go backwards. Well, one of the first things that happened to me is the 3 days that we were at ECO, I took this Mito ATP, and it was the only product that I took. And I took it twice a day. And the energy and the focus, the mental clarity was staggering, especially because we were getting fed a lot of information and it's easy to get overwhelmed,
Mhm.
especially when you're kind of making that mind shift a bit. And there was a lot of mind shifting kind of information going
Mhm.
on.
There
So
sure was.
yeah, so the 3 days I was taking the Mito, and then it was 10 days before I got home, got ordered and got my order, right? 10 days. I had this sustained energy for those 3 days for another 10 days without any product. And that really
Wow.
made an impact on me mentally. I'm like, I've never used stuff like that. It begins to gradually wear off, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I started that. The drainage pathway, I thought, well, this is going to be a piece of cake. I don't really need this. And I would say that I had a huge change in how my body processed things. My skin continued to improve, sinuses and sinus symptoms and things that I'd always had growing up. Lots of things changed for me, and I felt very clear mentally. I mentioned to you I had less problem with anxiety and depression, and that's something I've dealt with, like a lot of people, since I was in my teens. And the last few years, I'd had to manage that. I'd had to have help prescription wise, even with all the tools and the things that I had. And I started to see such improvement that I was decreasing my medication. And by the time I started phase 2, I was off all medication. At the time, I was on 3.
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah, when I say I had, and I don't mean, and I tell everybody, I didn't have energy like when you take a ginseng or a product that just, kicks your adrenals in the butt and gets them. I'm sorry, I'll try not to cuss on your podcast,
It's
but
okay.
just kicks your body into hyper gear. Whereas this, it felt sustained. Again, I can't
Mhm.
describe how wonderful it is to have mental clarity most of the
Mhm.
time, unless you're about to pass some parasites or some crud out of your liver. But most days it's phenomenal. And better energy, more willing to exercise, move around more, things like that. So I experienced a lot in that first 30 days. And then I started phase 2, and I I've only started, Dr. Jacqueline, but to pass some of the things that you told me I was going to pass out of my body. And now the phrase, well, better out than in, has become part of my day-to-day vernacular. So yeah, and one of the things I mentioned to you is my skin has continued to improve, but my eyelashes are longer. You can't see that from here, but you're going to have to take my word for it. A lot of times as women go through their 50s, they start to experience all these hormonal changes, right? And hormones had always been kind of an issue for me very, very painful and long periods. Oh, I didn't even tell you I was going to mention this, but another thing I've noticed since I started CellCore, I always would have headaches and certain body reactions that would precede my period by a day or two. No, like, here it's coming. Since I started CellCore, I don't have any of those. It's like, oh, my period's here.
Wow.
No headache, no pain, none of that nonsense anymore.
Okay, so you're in your 50s, you said.
Yeah.
So you said ever since you were a teen, so that's several decades where you were dealing with anxiety and depression, and to be able to get off your meds, which I know Dr. Debbie Denno doesn't necessarily recommend doing this on your own.
Thank you. And I do have a nurse practitioner that I worked with. She knows what I'm doing.
Yeah. But you did it within a few months
within a few months.
And actually, it was more like a month, right? You said before you did phase 2?
So I guess I realized that during phase 1 that I was feeling better, right? So I started to gradually decrease the medication. By the time I started phase 2, and I just started, or will start, my 6th week, I've been off medication for that time. So I decreased over a 30-day period of time, which is fast. It's really
I got chills just hearing that. You know, this is why we love this company, because the stories, I mean, of course, we all want to feel good. I mean, I have my stories, and all the people I talk to seem to have their story too. But I mean, when you can decrease how many decades of suffering, I mean, it's just, you want to tell the world, right?
You do.
Yeah. And so that's why it's beautiful that you're training these new practitioners that they don't even realize what they're stepping into, just like you didn't realize what you were stepping into.
No clue.
Yeah. So now, when did you add the oxygen into your phases here? So this is about what, 3rd month now, right?
Yeah, this is my 3rd month. So at ECO, we obviously talked about oxygen, and I heard that one of the practitioners, Dr. Jabin Moore, who also had been one of my students, he was doing a lot of work with CellCore and was working with a lot of special populations. So kids with spectrum disorders and things like that. So I remember talking about the oxygen, but actually you got me started nebulizing some oxygen. So I have it here because it's one of my favorites. I actually introduced it in phase 1. A lot because of your recommendations, and COVID was happening. And I was thinking, well, by golly, I'm going to make sure our lungs and our body is just as healthy as possible. So I added the oxygen in early, and pretty much now family and friends, I have them do the same thing, add it into phase 1, because I found that this is yet another thing that's so staggering to me, is anytime I've had patients work on detox, myself included, I knew that they all were going to have some symptoms, and that was going to be unique based on the health challenges that they had. For me, I knew I was going to have headaches and brain fog, and I'm talking crippling headaches. And I just knew that that's what I was going to go through. I had none of that. Now, I did have one 2-day headache during this whole 3 months process, but that was my own fault because I wasn't hydrating well and I wasn't doing enough of the lymphatic support. So I was getting a buildup of fluid in and around the head and the brain. As soon as I started, I was able to turn that around within 2 days, gone.
Crazy. Wow.
It is crazy. So I love this biomolecular oxygen. It is a daily product for my household.
Yeah. Anyone that's followed me knows for sure that product is a staple. I think that's the one product out of all of them that I've bought so many. I don't even know how many of them I bought in the short time that I've been using that product. I mean, I want to say when COVID hit too, we literally stocked up on so much that it was in my office, it was in my bathroom, it was in my cupboard, it was in my kitchen, and it wasn't just one bottle in those places. It was like several bottles all over my house.
You're absolutely right. I've got it in 2 places, bathroom and kitchen. And yes, we've got backup bottles. We're not going to be without.
Yeah, especially like you said, during these times when people are low oxygen saturation. I mean, we need oxygen. We have these things that are stealing the oxygen in our body, and not to mention any names of viruses that are going on.
But there's a bunch of viruses that our body has to deal with. So we talked a little bit about maybe sharing with your audience the ways that we use the oxygen, right? And so daily, I'm doing 2 things. I know that You've recommended, others have recommended that you can add the oxygen to like a coffee enema and things like that. But the ways I use it, I'm taking it in water, again, much like you recommended. I'm doing that twice a day. But I also take a drop or two in usually first thing in the morning. It's part of my morning routine. So I'll just take a drop and I rub that, sorry for any static, I rub that right over my carotid arteries. Now, if there's any extra on my fingers, you guys, I won't do this for you, but I also lick my fingers and wash my hands because I don't want to waste any of it. Or I'll take a little bit of coconut oil if there's some residual, and I'll run that inside my nose so that it's quickly absorbed up through the mucous membranes in my nose.
Oh, I've never heard of that way. So
it burns a little bit, so you've got to add coconut oil or something.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine it burning like that.
Yeah.
So part of the reason I love that product is because there's so many different ways to use it. And now I've already had, I don't even know how many, but now I have one more thing I can add to that list.
Yeah, one more thing. And so I do this for the mental clarity. It doesn't feel like, oh, I just took a hit of caffeine. I notice that I just come into being more focused and my energy is more sustained. Now, I made the mistake of doing this one time. We'd had kind of not a bad stress, but a very, very busy day. And I wanted to make sure that my mind could quiet for sleep. And so as part of my nighttime routine, I oftentimes will put the oxygen in my skincare to help improve that. But I made the mistake of rubbing that over my carotids again about 10 minutes before I went to bed. And basically I was up till 3 or 4 in the morning. Now I got a lot accomplished, but I wouldn't recommend that you put that right over your neck, the back of your neck, maybe at the base of your skull, but don't put that on topically or in your nose or any of that other stuff right before bed.
Yeah, I remember that day you were on a call with us. And
oh, was I?
Yeah, you're like, I'm sorry, guys.
Yes.
I stayed up all night because of this oxygen.
Yes. And
Some
we
people,
remember
though, it makes them
stories.
sleep, though. Have you heard that?
I know
or helps it.
It helps calm a lot of people with the oxygen over this is how Dr. Jabin uses it for children or people, adults that have anxiety issues and things like that. It helps calm them. And it does. It really does. But it also made me stay awake all night.
Yeah. So the point is that people deal with it a little bit differently. The
So
ATP, which provides more energy for the body too. I've heard that it can actually help with your sleep too. So there must be a correlation with that mitochondrial function and being able to sleep.
Probably so.
We've also I don't know all the science behind that though.
No, I don't either. One of the CellCore staff members, he also uses the lymphatic support. He'll take extra of that before bed. And he finds he's much more restful sleep. But that's especially, in his case, he's suffered with a lot of sinus and backup of that lymph into the brain. And so for him, taking one of those lymph support a little bit before bed actually helps him sleep. So like you said, you got to find what works for you.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because it wasn't really something I ever thought about. But at night, our lymphatic system, so the lymph in our brain, is detoxing when we sleep enough, at least. And so you take a supplement like the lymphatic support, and it just helps with that drainage pathway. So I'm gonna keep that in mind as I put together protocols for people. Or make suggestions.
Yeah, I think especially if they suffer from headaches when they first wake up, or it's a wonderful support during phase 2 as well, because once you start moving things, you move it from everywhere. I am amazed at where all these toxins are stored in our body.
Oh yeah,
I swear that first week it was like, I know that I'm going to have a critter come out my sinuses. I just know I am because of all the stuff that's draining here. I didn't.
Well,
not yet.
The tincture, the nasal spray that they're coming out with, I hear that moves out stuff, and I would not be surprised if I moves something out of my brain too.
Absolutely. Get it out. Better out than in.
That's exactly what it is. And we all have stuff we're dealing with. So, so I'm glad you mentioned too, that you could put the lymphatic support in phase 2, because it doesn't come until phase 3.
Correct.
Yeah. And then it's in phase 5.
Right.
And it's something that can really help, if someone does have lymphatic issues to add that support in sooner. The CellCore protocol, it is designed in a way where you don't have more than 6 or so products.
Right.
And, you're not getting a whole bunch of stuff that's overwhelming you, but sometimes people need to kind of ebb
Mm-hmm.
and flow with it depending on where they're at, and practitioners too. If you're
Yeah,
helping people, it's okay. It's okay to not be
it is.
perfect, or perfect, like what exactly they say is, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody is a little bit different in what they're dealing with. So if people with
Mm-hmm.
mold issues, I mean, I have a lady that has a mold issue. It's really bad, and she's on phase
Mm-hmm.
4 and 5 right now, but I still have her taking biotoxin binder because
Right.
I want that mold
Absolutely.
to be on 0 when I do her mycotoxin test.
Sure.
So,
Well,
anyways,
and we
yeah.
have the opportunity, I think, with these other products. Again, I personally have never seen a detox protocol, first off, that works this deep and this extensively. But second is, like we talked about, you've got all these things that you can bring in, you can add to that if you need, so that you can function. And again, if you've ever done a detox, you know that there's going to be some yucky days.
Mhm.
And these products help minimize the yucky days. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the education that they give the practitioners
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
understand how to ebb and flow with it, so we don't have to
Right.
have so many yucky days, is quite extensive. And now
Hmm.
you're at the top of the chain with this, so the education.
Yeah,
Um,
I get to
so
be part of
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So let's tie the essential oils in, because I
Okay.
know that you're very passionate about
Hmm.
essential oils as
Hmm.
well, and you
Hmm.
you even use the oxygen with the essential oils.
I do.
Um, I do have a question from one of our audience members,
Okay.
who is my
Hmm.
husband.
Great.
He's like, "Can you please ask the doctor what she thinks?"
Hmm. Sure.
He would like to know, what kind of essential oil would you recommend for viruses? Like, what would be your
Ah,
top one?
that's a great, great question. My top one, if you ask me anything, is going to either be frankincense or copaiba. And
Hmm.
it's spelled Copaiba. It's actually pronounced, I guess, in most countries where it's grown, copaiba, but copaiba is easier. And those would be one of those two. And partly because frankincense has got so many anti-inflammatory compounds. If you want to nerd out and look this up, there's a family of compounds called sesquiterpenes,
Hmm.
and they're known to help with appropriate cell response. Okay, so they're oftentimes indicated when our immune system's gone rogue, or if our immune system is suppressed, overactive, any of those types of things. So frankincense would be one of them. And I just happen to have some frankincense here with me. I take this internally. I'll diffuse it or put it on topically, but most of the time I'm taking it internally. Now, a little caveat to husband, you and I've talked about oil, so, and I know what you're using, but for the audience, check the labels, because if your essential oil doesn't say that it is for topical and probably internal use, it's synthetic and
Hmm.
should not be, in my opinion, shouldn't be used in any way. Because why would I want aromatically or topically or internally to put stuff in my bloodstream that could potentially be toxic? I don't.
Mhm. Yeah, and you're
So
using doTERRA, right?
I use doTERRA, and so with a doTERRA bottle, there's a couple of things. We'll see a supplemental facts label on it, which will talk about how to use it internally. But typically, I'm taking just a dropper and putting a couple of drops underneath my tongue. I put it on
Hmm.
topically over areas of pain, inflammation. But frankincense would be one of my favorites, and then the other one would be copaiba or
Mm-hmm.
copaiba. And copaiba works on the CB2 receptors
Hmm.
throughout the body. So much like CBD, it works on all those same organs, but it doesn't have any THC, and it is, oh gosh, a tenth to a fourth the cost of CBD oil, and works the same.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So, okay, you use these topically and internally. Now, are
internally.
you
Mhm.
doing this with the oxygen?
So at home, typically when I'm using the oxygen, so like if I have an owie, if we're getting ready to move right now, it's why you don't see anything on the wall behind me.
Mhm.
We're packing up for a move. And so, at the end of the day, I'm a little sore and a little stiff, right? So before I put any oils or any topical pain relievers on me, I make sure I've got my oxygen. So I will put those oils on my, tight muscles and things like that. And then I layer a few drops of oxygen over top of it, because the oxygen acts as a driver to push those products into the circulation that much quicker. So it's great for pain as well.
Okay, so
So
you put
yeah,
the essential oil first, and
yep,
then you put the
yep.
oxygen on top.
So yeah, if I was packing up some stuff tonight, what I do is I take a couple of drops of frankincense, because of all of its anti-inflammatory, and even though it's got immune boosting formula, because it is such diverse, has such diverse chemistry, it's a great anti-inflammatory. So I tend to use a couple of drops of frankincense, a couple of drops of copaiba. I even use some turmeric, and then I will put that with a little coconut oil, rub that into my area of owie or tension, or sometimes I do it just preventatively. I'm going to do a workout. I'm going to lift some boxes. I'm going to do this ahead of time even as well, just to prevent anything.
Before and after. Yeah.
Right. But I rub that in, and then I follow it right away with a couple drops of oxygen and rub that in as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, which ones do you suggest, since we're talking about mental wellness on this series, which ones do you suggest for mental wellness of different types of situations that people are going through?
Surprisingly, frankincense and copaiba are on the top of my list. Actually,
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
It's not as surprising. Frankincense is also an essential oil that crosses the blood-brain barrier. So it's great for helping decrease inflammation in the brain. So whether we're talking about lymphatic support, supporting the immune system, decreasing inflammation in the brain so that everything's clicking better, I use frankincense. Okay. So if I want to perk myself up in the morning, you know, I told you about my oxygen routine here. I'll also put a little bit of frankincense and oxygen at the base of my skull, and I rub it up into my temples.
Why there? Why in those two places?
I don't know. Here, because it's close to the brain stem and all the nerves in the cervical spine.
Okay.
Really, if you think about it, wherever there's a lot of nerves, there's a lot of blood supply.
Oh, okay.
Wherever there's a lot of blood supply, there's a lot of nerves. So, you know, things like putting it up in the neck region, temples, all those temporal vessels, or put it under your tongue and those vessels. Some folks will swish oils and nutrients around in their mouth, because things can get up through the soft palate into the brain, or we put them in a diffuser, nebulizer, things like that. So yes, I will put a drop of frankincense, a drop of copaiba, and a couple of drops of oxygen in my little nebulizer. And actually, mine is a personal inhaler. By the time you told me about nebulizers, you couldn't get them anymore, you know, because COVID happened. So I've got this personal inhaler that I just put those oils and the oxygen in the little water tank, and then I'll breathe that in. And I've tried it with just oxygen. I've tried it with just oils. I personally like the effect of doing both. I think it really increases the alertness. And,
yeah, you know, when I was doing a lot of my diffusing in the colder months of COVID, now I don't really, I'm not really as drawn to it right now. But I did feel like I needed it in the midst of COVID, like the first couple months. And I was doing colloidal silver, or actually a nanoparticleized silver. And then I would add in the oxygen, and then I would add in On Guard and eucalyptus oil.
Oh, yes.
Or breathe. Yeah, either one of those
are great.
Yeah.
Because they contain eucalyptus or rosemary. They're also mucolytic, so they help tend to expectorant and to get that mucus up out of the respiratory system. So yeah, there's nothing like a little bit of oils and oxygen, and then nebulize that. Whew.
Yeah, those oils are amazing. So, but I'm glad to know of some other ones that I can experiment with. I didn't even think of those two for the whole virus situation.
Yeah, think of those two. Now, can I piggyback not just off the virus part, but I don't know. This is probably backwards, isn't it? This label says
so, but it's small.
Adaptive. Oh yeah, it's so small.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Oh, I haven't seen that one. Adaptive.
Yeah. So Adaptive was a blend that a lot of natural health companies, whether it's essential oils or supplements, they're as we learn more about, you know, the gut as our second brain, as we learn more about how nutrition and things affect our mood. Well, doTERRA came up with this blend called Adaptive, and it was developed I guess you'd say cooperatively with psychologists, psychiatrists, chemists, things like that. But it's a blend of oils that helps balance the HPA axis. So
Hmm.
between the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal gland. So I like to say it is kind of, it's calming and supportive of that system. So both your neurologic side, but also the endocrine and hormonal side.
Hmm.
Yeah, I should send you a sample of this. It's absolutely dreamy. And it contains oils like wild orange.
Oh, I love
Um,
that.
yeah, all the citrus oils are very mood elevating, which is wonderful. It contains lavender, and lavender is good not only to soothe, but it also helps decrease histamine. So again, that anti-swelling type of effect. It's got copaiba and frankincense in it. It's got spearmint, which mint
Mm.
oils are really interesting, what they can do for helping improve mood and decreasing anxiety, improving confidence. It contains magnolia, some rosemary, again, which is good for the brain, neroli. So a lot of flower oils, which are really good for balancing and kind of modulating hormones too.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I use
Hmm.
flower remedies,
Yes.
and the whole thing with flowers is they're meant to, or they can help with emotions.
Yes.
And so I'm not surprised, even with the essential oils, that
Hmm.
a lot of them are from flowers that help emotions
Right.
too. I was
So
wondering
true.
that. I'm not the essential oil expert just yet. One day after hanging out with a bunch of you guys, I will be.
Yeah.
But I really got into these flower remedies because I
Yes.
knew it was specifically for that, and I mean,
Yes.
I've seen incredible improvements with these
Hmm.
remedies. But you're taking the essence of the flower versus
Hmm.
using the oil, so I didn't really
Right.
know what was the solution if people were going to use oils, and
Right.
I knew there was something,
Right.
but that's cool to know that they're both flowers.
Right. So the essential oils are coming for different, possibly different aspects of the plant, and that determines its chemistry. So
Mhm.
whether you make tinctures and extracts or you use it as the pure oil, yeah, they're rich, a rich chemical background. So they typically an essential oil, a pure one doesn't just do one thing. You know, it's a complex chemistry, and so it can do lots of medicinal things or help support a lot of medicinal reactions in the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you have any other suggestions for mood?
Clean up your gut. My goodness, clean up your gut. That would be probably the number one thing that I would say. Um, I remember when I was having so much trouble with anxiety that, and I mean no disrespect, but for me, I had an illustration that what I thought, the perception that I saw was not real reality. I'll tell you a little story. I was helping my husband with a home improvement project at my mom's house. And the way I saw this one particular scenario, the two of them saw completely different and
Mm.
exactly the same. So it let me know that yes, I've got all this stuff going on in my body, but hormones can alter my perception of how I
Mhm.
perceive reality. That was really illuminating to me.
Mhm.
So once I learned that, fortunately, I started working more on gut health. And it's huge to me as you learn about that gut microbiome and how certain bacteria, when they overgrow in the intestine, they actually chemically stimulate you to eat more of this horrible food
Mhm.
that makes you want to have it, have to have it, and then you just continue to get sicker and sicker. It's
Mhm.
amazing to me. So
Yeah.
ultimately, if you want to have good mental health, good anything, I think you have to work on some kind of gut plan to detoxify, eliminate those toxins and things like that. So
Yeah.
go back to the drainage funnel.
Right. Well, and I was just thinking, it seems like that's the whole CellCore protocol is really to fix your
Hmm.
gut microbiome and what's causing it to
Absolutely.
be thrown off.
Hmm.
So that makes sense why you've had massive improvements, even with your
Hmm.
cognitive function and your,
Hmm.
the anxiety and depression and all that.
Right.
So, yeah. So what about chiropractic? That can also help with mental health, right?
It can. So it's probably not well known yet, unfortunately, what chiropractic can do. Most of the time, people think chiropractic, massage, any of these things, they're just for pain. And I've had this theory probably most of my life growing up through seeing chiropractor, massage therapists, learning acupuncture, all of these things, that ultimately, if anything's going to make an effect on the body, it has to affect our chemistry or our nervous system, right? So there's actually been studies done by neuroscientists that when you deliver an adjustment, that stimulus not only helps improve joint mobility, which helps decrease pain. The actual perception of the nerve fibers in this area, it's like they tone down the volume. You have an adjustment, but it doesn't just have to be a manual one. And we can talk about that here in just a minute. But whether it's an adjustment, it's body work, it's acupuncture, all of those things improve the signals up to the sensory part of the brain. And then the brain has a choice. It looks at that information and decides, is that the reality I want for this body? And if not, then it causes a reaction into another area of the brain that has more of a motor or an effect on our body. So an adjustment can help relax muscle tension throughout the body. It can help get you out of this sympathetic dominance, this fight or flight response, and more into a healing type of parasympathetic tone. So when you learn about fight or flight, its opposite is the parasympathetic, more the rest and healing and renewing. Well, we can see that after an adjustment, but we see that also after massage, acupressure, cupping. I mean, so I always felt like, well, if all of these other therapies are helping people, right, there must be some truth. There must be some commonality. And again, the research actually points to is that information gets up through the brain and hits this area where the body's got to compare. Is that necessary? Is this a better response? And if it does get up that high enough through all the filters, it causes a different response down to the organs, the tissues, the muscles. So, think about if you've ever had an adjustment, you've ever had acupuncture, massage, whatever you're into, you feel better afterwards. You feel more centered, calmer, right?
Well, I'll tell you a story real quick. My brother just finished his chiropractic school at
that's right.
Life West, in California. And he's my baby brother, and I always you just look at your little brother like your little brother. Now he's this doctor, and I had no idea the gifts and talents that he had. So one day we were traveling. My grandpa was kind of on he was on his deathbed, unfortunately, at the time. So we were traveling like long distances in the car, visiting. And so me and him got, chatting, and we never really had like doctor talk before, and so we're just chatted away, and he's like, you know what, you want me to adjust you when you get home? And I didn't really grow up with a chiropractor. I didn't really understand kind of why you would do it and all that. And so I was like, yeah, why not? Sure. I couldn't believe it. It was actually, I might have had like one or two adjustments, like some minor things. And the first time it freaked me out. I mean, this lady did something to my neck, and I was like, like it was just everything cracked. So what he did was so just very subtle.
Gentle.
Yeah, it was very gentle. Yeah. And he literally, it felt like adjusted almost every bone in my body. I mean, I'm sure I'm over exaggerating slightly, but after he did that, I mean, even down to my collarbones, my toes, I didn't even realize people adjust those type of bones too.
You're right.
And I felt so good afterwards. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh, I need more of this in my life.
But then there's also techniques that don't actually crack a joint or make any of those types of noises and things. It's much more gentle. It's a pressure. It's a release of maybe an acupressure or reflex points, and they all have the same outcomes. And so again, there must be some commonality. And I used to always tell patients, well, after an adjustment improves blood flow and nerve flow to all parts of your body, how can that be bad? It's not. It's not. I've seen people who got an adjustment and maybe have had trouble sleeping. Now, is that the only thing? No, I've never personally felt like I could adjust a person out of the effect of eating, 6 Big Macs and drinking a liter of vodka. I mean, I can't do that. It all works together. But at least from the nervous system side, whatever you're drawn to, whether it's chiropractic, traditional chiropractic, or one of these gentler techniques, That's what it does. It helps the brain and the body connect. And our body gets into these patterns. They get into these things that it knows. And think of, well, I've heard it described as an adjustment, a body work treatment. It's like putting Control Alt Delete and we reset the system for a time.
So, we talked about in the beginning of how the oxygen and the mito, how those personally helped you with a lot of your brain function, right?
Right.
And they're pretty much doing, it sounds like a similar idea where they're bringing oxygen and blood flow to your brain.
Yes.
And obviously structural challenges can be a reason why people are not getting all the oxygen and nutrients to their brain as well.
They can.
So my point is that there could be different routes. I mean, there could be something with the chemistry level, but there could be a structural thing that's thrown off as well too, that it's all necessary.
There are patients who've had, they've had a trauma. They've maybe been in a car accident or had some kind of injury, and the brain got stuck in that loop of that event, the muscle tension, all this. And sometimes this happens for years. And again, it's like that Control Alt Delete, let's reset. In my opinion, it's one of the reasons that acupuncture works so well. Again, I've been fortunate to try lots of different types of natural medicine and things over the years. And I've had some of the same reactions with a manual adjustment, chiropractic adjustment, to a light force, to acupressure, to having a needle stuck in one of those spots. So it's amazing to me how, again, that just causes the body to reset. And it's not the needle, it's not the doctor making the adjustment. The practitioner has the skill to know where to deliver it. But the wonderful thing is all of those things work with that innate power of the body, that when we remove those irritants, it naturally is going to heal and restore, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that. If we remove the irritants, then the body can restore and heal. The body is healing itself.
Constantly. I tell patients all the time, I don't know if you can see this. Anyway, I've got just a little minor scratch. We have a kitten. And I used to always tell patients, they say, well, I just don't think I can get better. And I say, if you get a scratch today, a cut today, will it heal? Yes. Well, then why can't we heal this other thing? Why can't we?
I love that.
Why can't we?
So. Right. Yeah. Well, that's a nice way to put it, in a simple way that can be easy to understand. Because I think sometimes if someone gets diagnosed with some type of disease or they're dealing with some type of really complicated health issue, it just seems like, I mean, we're almost kind of trained to think, well, we're just going to die and it's not going to work itself out and we're going to suffer for the rest of our life. Unfortunately, I always had the sense that, especially since I became a Christian, where I was just like, well, if God loves us this much, and, like, this can't be right. Like, just, there's so many things in the Bible that tell me that we should be able to heal. Like, it just does not make sense, so
I agree.
I searched for answers, and, obviously CellCore is one of the things I came across, and, and then all these different modalities that come with it that are just incredible if used correctly.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I do think that that's the foundation we need to get to. You mentioned earlier that COVID is creating all kinds of changes for people, but we're both in agreement that one of the things that I hope comes out of this is that people realize they have options, they have choices. Nothing is hopeless. I mean, unless you just don't make a change. There's a lot that we can do. And especially if we take some kind of, maybe it's chiropractic, maybe it's massage, whatever, but we take some kind of natural body work, we take nutrition, we take stress relieving benefits, this wonderful integrated body. It doesn't have a 1 + 1 + 1 = 3 effect. It's 1 + 1 + 1 is 100 million kind of effect. It has this exponential effect, so you just have to find what works for you.
Totally.
But that's the hard part.
Yeah. Most of us are experimenting, with ourselves until we're like, okay, this is it. And, the other side of it too is there's different modalities and different things for different times and seasons for people. if someone is more sick, they're going to need certain types of diets and tinctures and
Right.
this and that. And then if they're less, then they might not need to. Like I interviewed Mike earlier, and he's in pretty good health and he was raised in a pretty healthy family. For him, this is more optimization, it seems like, versus really trying to dig in the nitty gritty. And there's going to be people out there, which I think is kind of a dime a dozen nowadays.
It is.
Just because of everything we're under. But for those people, I mean, there's certain things that you can take that in certain body therapies and things like that, where you're optimizing and you're just getting the nitty gritty, where if you take it up even just this much more notch, you're going to have massive improvement still. So
I agree.
so glad that
And
you mentioned that.
That's what I would say happened with me with CellCore. So like, well, Debbie, how is this any different? Well, in the beginning, I couldn't tell you until I started using them. And even though I'd already done all of these things, there's always another layer, another thing that we can peel off and find even greater benefit. So absolutely.
Well, you look fabulous.
Thank
And I could see it glowing on your face, like since I've seen you at Eco, and the improvement that's everything that you explained, I could see it. I could see the difference from when I first saw you on day one, and
Thank you.
How you're glowing and your energy and all that. And it's only going to continue getting better and better as we keep peeling these layers, right?
That's my hope. I can't wait to see what my health is like in a few years. It'll be better than it is now.
Yeah, well,
And
even
who
in
can
just
say that?
within the year, it's
That's right.
incredible. This whole thing, like, the whole protocol can take what they recommend, the general idea, like a year. But
Yes.
if you think about it, if you do a lot of the really good weed work during that time, the results that people would get in this year time, I mean, people are searching for these answers, and 50
All
years
their life.
later, spinning their wheels still,
Yes.
So it's really not that bad at the end of the day.
I agree.
So
I agree.
anyways, I love chatting with you. I love how
Thank
you
you
look
so
at
much.
all these perspectives and have, an opinion and a personal touch on each one of them. Do you have any other insight for the listeners, related to mental health and wellness, and
Yeah.
anything related to that in the COVID situation?
So thank you for asking. And I don't want to take a lot of your time, but, I think, like you said, everybody's got to look at that piece. Some of us is going to be working on the physical body, some working on our chemistry, some on the mental. The one thing that I would say is, gosh, during this time, don't, and you hear it, but don't isolate, try and connect with people. You and I, because of our belief as Christians, we both believe that evil forces try and separate us, right? They try and draw us off to the side. No, we need to find good, encouraging people to be around in our life, good resources and things like that, and stay connected. And of course, that exponential thing happens too. If you've had trauma and you've had bad things happen in your life, gosh, find a counselor or a meditator, find some avenue to help heal yourself emotionally. I will say, and this, anytime you work on the physical body, the chemical part of the body, emotions are going to come up. And if you can work on all three of those planes a little bit as you're able, wow, big things happen. Really, really big things happen.
Yes. Yeah, I opened the Bible today and I had this really big note on wherever I was in the Bible that talked about how, that said something, it said complete restoration. That's what it is. And that's basically what you described, is complete restoration. We can't just look at one piece and think that that's it. Like, we are mind, a body, a spirit, and there's all these different little roots of each thing that affect each other thing.
Absolutely. They really, really do. They really, really do. And you work on one area and you'll experience healing and release in the other two as well. It's huge.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, well, Debbie, Dr. Denno, Dr. Debbie Denno. I know you as Debbie, but now we're at Dr. Denno. I appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your story. Yeah, it really has. And I know we could chat all day for sure, because
we could.
We're just
I love you.
I'll join you in the think tank next week, and then we'll continue this conversation.
Sounds wonderful.
So any practitioners that use CellCore, join us in the think tank, the CellCore think tank. I'm looking forward to that. Can you actually tell them what that is?
I can. So there's going to be an invitation out to all of our CellCore practitioners coming up soon. But currently, the think tank, we've invited some of our docs who have an interest in research and looking at things. Now, sometimes we do things in practice because we've experimented ourselves and we have that clinical experience, that personal experience. But what our goal is as CellCore is to make sure that our understanding of the way the body's working, the physiology and all of these things is current, because believe it or not, things do change. Once upon a time, science didn't think we had a lymphatic system in our brain. And now not only do we know that it does, we're learning more and more and more about what it does for a variety of health conditions in the body, so that the inflammation in the lymphatic system in the brain can affect all of the body. Okay. So it's super important to us in the think tank that we stay connected, that we make sure that we have good current understanding of how the body's working and the products that we use. So we're all about making sure we know the truth and finding that truth. And if we find some new truth, we test it out and it holds the test of time, then we're going to incorporate that into our products, a shift in how we educate, how we formulate, things like that. So the think tankers, those folks that are asking those hard questions, is this the best we can do? And if it is, great.
Even though it's already amazing what CellCore is doing, we're not settling. We're continuing to learn and grow. That's why we have Debbie Denno here leading us in the education department here.
Right.
And I'm excited to be a part of this think tank and read research papers and learn how to do that even better. So I'm really just blessed to again be partnered with you in this project here. So thank you, Debbie Denno, Dr. Debbie Denno. Sorry, I keep calling you Debbie on the show, but it's one of those things when you learn people as a certain name, it's hard to. But for you guys in the audience, she's Dr. Denno. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. And we will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, Debbie, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can always email me at Debbie, DEBBIE Denno, DENNO at CellCoreBiosciences.com. Or if you are on the CellCore Practitioner Facebook page, you can always message me, private message me or something like that.
And then are you on Instagram?
I'm trying to become on Instagram. Dr. Jacqueline is mentoring me in lots of things, but no, not very much yet. No, mostly Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter are my main avenues right now, and email and text. So they can always email me and get involved with Think Tank or find out more about becoming a CellCore practitioner. And I would encourage anybody that is a health practitioner in any way, and you're like, well, I'm not sure about CellCore supplements yet. I always tell them, become a provider. Then you have access to all of our education. We open the doors. We're completely transparent about our products and what we do, and learn about us and see if these CellCore products work for you too.
All right. Thank you again, Debbie. And again, thank you, listeners. And we will tune in with more amazing people like this on the show. Have a nice day. My Super Immunity Boost Juice Guide is now available on thewellnesstrinity.com. You'll learn how to grow broccoli microgreens, the ingredients I put in my green juice, and super nutritious supplements you can add to enhance your immune system. Again, go to thewellnesstrinity.com and you'll receive your free Super Immunity Boost Juice Guide.
Thank you for listening to the Wellness Trinity podcast. Be sure to subscribe for more wellness tips to help you achieve optimal health. Don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.